Being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
So Jubes & Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate. Both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway, Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Saturday nights on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan tonight.
Saturday nights on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And tonight, on this evening's show, we are celebrating the new king in style with a special coronation party. In my big opinion, today's event was a celebration of all things British, and in my view, the monarchy is in safe hands for decades to come. Also, I'll be asking tonight if the coronation lived up to the hype and whether King Charles will serve a full term. Plus, we'll take a look at the lighter side of the coronation in my take at 10. And with me for the duration of our coronation party, we have in the studio former butler to Princess Diana, and I'm a celebrity star, Paul Burrell, the Queen of US royal reporting, Kinsey Schofield, and legendary journalist and arch royalist, Mike Porky Parry. Plus, we've got a wide range of wonderful guests to help see out what has been a magical day. We've got tomorrow's papers, and let me tell you, we'll be sampling some coronation drinks as well. So if you're at home, I want you to put something cold and bubbly and special into the fridge. Or if you're a teetotaler, then let's fire up the kettle and let's get a brew going. And have you got any coronation pictures to send me? Any selfies? Any outfits? Let me know. Mark at gbnews.uk. It's a 2-hour party. Everyone's invited. First, the headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Mark, thank you. Good evening. A moment of history for Commonwealth and country as King Charles III is crowned the nation's monarch. The spiritual and deeply personal event for the King was watched from around the world by millions. The Archbishop of Canterbury placed St Edward's crown on Charles's head, making him the 40th sovereign to be crowned at Westminster Abbey.
God save the King!
God save the King! Queen Camilla became the first Queen Consort to be crowned with Queen Mary's crown since the late Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, in 1937.
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you, and faith and truth I will bear unto you, as your liege man of life and limb. So help me God.
There was a personal moment between king and heir as the Prince of Wales, William, pledged his loyalty to his father and gave him a kiss on the cheek. Well, King Charles and Queen Camilla appeared together on the balcony of Buckingham Palace. They waved to the thousands who gathered to pay their respects. They were joined by the Prince and Princess of Wales and their 3 children. Princess Charlotte can be seen in the front there, waving to well-wishers. 2 of the King's siblings, Princess Anne and Prince Edward, also came out to greet supporters. Due to the weather, a scaled-back flypast of Royal Air Force jets, including the famous Red Arrows, flew over the crowds that filled the Mall and over the nation's new king. The armed forces staged the largest ceremonial military operation since the late Queen's coronation in 1953. 4,000 servicemen and women took part in a parade that stretched a mile long, including the Household Cavalry, the Sovereign's Bodyguard and Royal Watermen. The military parade also featured troops from nations across the Commonwealth and the British Overseas Territories. Well, in typical British weather, there was heavy rain, but that failed to dampen the enthusiasm of the crowds who gathered, hoping to catch a glimpse of the King and Queen. All procession viewing areas along the route were filled to capacity. Fans cheered Charles and Camilla as they travelled down the Mall in the Gold State coach, which is over 260 years old and has been used at every coronation since 1831. We spoke to some of the 10,000 people who turned up.
Amazing, just absolutely amazing. Yeah, just congratulations to the King and Queen Camilla. Unbelievable.
Very wet, but tiring, but what a spectacle. Nobody else can do it better than us, can they?
We weren't expecting to see them on the balcony. We didn't think that we would get that close because we were quite far back. So, yeah, it's just a good day to be British.
We loved it. It was wonderful. If it wasn't so wet.
God save the King, God save the King, God save the King.
Well, just hours before the coronation, police arrested the leader of anti-monarchy group Republic, along with 52 others lining the procession route. Republic had previously promised to stage the biggest protest against a British monarch in modern history. Activists dressed in yellow T-shirts demanded an elected head of state and said that the royal family has no place in modern constitutional democracy. A number of Just Stop Oil protesters were also detained. You're up to date on GB News now. It's back to Mark.
A good day to be British indeed. Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. On this evening's show, we're celebrating the new king in style with a special coronation party. And you're all invited. With me in the studio, former butler to Princess Diana, and I'm a celebrity star, Paul Burrell. The Queen of US Royal Reporting, Kinsey Schofield, and legendary journalist and radio star and arch-monarchist Mike Porky Parry, OBE, eventually. plus a wide range of wonderful guests to help see out what has been a magical day. We've got tomorrow's papers, and in my take at 10, I'll be sharing the highs, the lows, and some of the hilarity of the big occasion. So it's 2 hours of fun and celebration, and it all gets underway with my big opinion. Nobody does it better. Today's magnificent coronation ceremony was a celebration of all things British. Our traditions, our values, our culture, our style, and our history. How readily those Republican numpties who planned chaos and disruption on the Mall today would discard the amazing legacy of our great monarchy, which represents and unifies our nation, and which is a global beacon for Britain around the world. Today had everything. It had pomp, it had ceremony, glamour, fancy frocks, ancient robes, gold, silver, platinum, and an unlimited amount of sparkle. Our diversity, our national story, and our past, present, and future were all on display. Now, as a free speech advocate, I'm uneasy about the sight of "Not Our King" placards being taken off protesters and arrests being made. The government still have work to do striking a balance between keeping law and order and the right to protest. But either way, the minority of voices calling for Britain to be a republic was silenced today. Because the coronation isn't really about Charles and Camilla, it's about you and me. As British citizens, it was our day as much as theirs, and the horse-drawn carriages, the crowns, the jewels, the ermine, the gilded trappings of empire and our glorious past belong to each and every one of us. It was Charles and Camilla's day for sure, but it was our day too. And the pictures from the Abbey that played out, for which we had to pay the taxpayer-funded BBC a small fortune, would move anyone with a heart and would inspire anyone with a head. Today's coronation was an advert for a constitutional monarchy and an advert for modern Britain. With Charles rightly presiding over a Christian ceremony, but one which included all of the faiths. With a Bible reading from our own British Asian Prime Minister, no less, Rishi Sunak. I thought he did a great job. In this ever-changing world, with Western liberal values appearing to be under daily attack, the monarchy has never been more important. And in the hands of Charles, a man of conscience and conviction, and his elegant and dignified wife Camilla, the future is bright. And with William and Kate set to follow in their footsteps, the fate of the monarchy looks to be secure for the lion's share of this century. If you're of a Republican bent, and after today fewer will be, just be careful what you wish for. Because if you ditch all of this precious pomp and ceremony, if you erase all of this history, it will merely be replaced by an elected president, some pen-pushing bureaucrat, a faceless public servant, an ex-politician, or a clapped-out celebrity. Just think of the alternative to King Charles, folks. It could be President Tony Blair. What about President Simon Cowell? President Piers Morgan? Or, horror of horrors, strap yourselves in, President Gary Lineker. No king way. Now, as a man of Irish heritage whose family came here in the 1960s, reporting on this momentous event for GB News has been a huge personal privilege. I love this country. I love its traditions. I love its institutions. I love its history, and I love its people. So, happy coronation, everyone, and good luck, King Charles. The artist formerly known as Prince is going to the top of the charts. This guy's number one. I'm getting out of breath. I'm too old for this business. What do you think? Mark at gbnews.uk. Let me have your response to today's wonderful coronation. Was it a hit for you? Reacting to my big opinion. With me for our coronation party tonight, live in the studio, former butler to Princess Diana and star of I'm a Celebrity, Paul Burrell. We also have the Queen of US royal, political and showbiz reporting, Kinsey Schofield. And legendary journalist and radio star Mike Porky Parry. Well, look, great to have all three of you with me. Ladies first. First of all, can I just say, get rid of that piece of paper. We need to see the outfit. It's ravishing.
Thank you. Thank you. I save all my best looks for Mark and Paul.
You've got a lovely...
Perry. Mark, Paul and Perry.
You've got a flower attached to your décolletage, and you are quite literally England's rose.
Well, why, thank you. But, you know, I was trying to go with the coronation theme of earthy flowers. We all saw the Princess of Wales's beautiful, I don't want to say it was a fascinator, a tiara, it was a headband.
It was more of a sort of...
Piece.
A piece,
It was
I
a
think.
piece of art.
Yes.
So I was going with the floral decor that I saw in the coronation invitation.
Yes. Well, it was a great, great look. It suits you, and it suited Kate. She did look great today, didn't she?
She did. So elegant, sophisticated. We all want to be Kate.
Yeah, what is her secret? Is it just that she's blessed with good looks, or is there more going on?
Oh, she never puts a foot wrong. She is perfect in that role. And today in the Abbey, she and William were watching the rehearsal for their coronation, because they are the future. Yeah. And this monarchy that we're going to see now is not a long monarchy, it's a bridge. We're going to cross the bridge with King Charles and Queen Camilla, and ahead of us will be King William and Queen Catherine, and then one day, Diana's son will be King of the United Kingdom.
What a moment. As somebody that's been so close to Diana, did it stick in the craw for you that it wasn't Diana being crowned today?
Well, listen, we can't change the past. We have to go forward. And for me, of course, sentiment took over. I had a tear. I did cry, because it was very moving for me to see this family, whom I know so well, perform so well. And for me, it was just incredible.
Yeah. Mike, your professional verdict on today's coronation?
Well, you know, there is a Republican movement in small parts of this country. It's not very strong. But there's also people who snipe at the royal family and try to find reasons to question why were we funding a coronation. Now, I watched 4 different TV channels today on 4 different screens in my penthouse, OK. Mostly watching GB News, of course. But
it must look like air traffic control in there.
Yeah, it was a bit. It was a bit like that.
Was one of them the racing channel by any chance?
No, it wasn't. No, but input coming in from all over the place, and the thing that hit me. And then before coming into the GB News studios tonight, I took a walk around the town to meet people. People have come here to witness this from all over the world. Yeah. From Sicily, from South America, from Australia, New Zealand, from the Far East. They've come here. Now, doesn't that give you an indication of what a huge weapon we have in soft power around the world with the royal family that we have here? Because the world will be banjaxed now for the next 10 days at the magnificence, at the glory, at the sheer spectacle and power that we can produce in this country purely from being what we are, the best of British.
Most certainly. Now, you've been in all the key newsrooms in the country, and you've been at the Express and the Sun and elsewhere. If you were drafting tomorrow's papers, if you were drawing up that front page headline, what would the flavour of it be?
Well, the flavour it would be about how successful today was. Right. And I want to pay tribute as well to the police. Somebody has suddenly taught the police that you've actually got to be policemen and not sympathisers to protesters. So there wasn't an ounce, really, of concern after we first saw the police get to grips with the early protesters. But actually, it's the dignity with which our new monarch went through the day's events.
Yeah.
I mean, he went through it with the dignity point, you know what I'm saying? Yes. As though he was the one who was getting the best out of it, not the country. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
He did it in the way that, well, the early statement, I'm here to serve, not to be served. And I think that one statement will encompass what he's going to do over the next 20 and hopefully more years in taking us forward.
Well, indeed. So now, Kinsey, you've been a royal admirer since you were a little girl. You've dedicated your career to the royals. Your website is To Die For Daily, which is a massive website. You've got a podcast of the same name, a brand new book out, which I'll wave at the camera in a moment. So this is a big deal for you. It's your job, but it's also your passion.
My Super Bowl.
Well, indeed, your Super Bowl. So what were your emotions as you watched the footage today?
I mean, I think a little part of me envies the culture here because America doesn't have anything that can compete. I mean, I think we have celebrity, but celebrity can't compare to royalty.
Well, the issue the Americans have, and I love America so much, I've got family there, but of course the head of state is also the head of government, and that makes the role quite divisive, doesn't it?
Right.
The genius of the monarch is they are apolitical. So it's very difficult for 100% of Americans to get behind their head of state because it's also a politician.
Right, and we are so toxic in the States right now. You can't have an American flag on your front porch, or you're an extremist.
Is that right? Now that's a big change, isn't it? Because I thought that America was a country you were still allowed to be patriotic. When did that change, would you say?
I'd say, throughout the Trump administration, if you were a patriot, it was considered a negative thing. But in this country, you wave your flag so proudly. They stand.
No, but we do have that, Kinsey, in this country. Believe me, we do. You go around waving a Union Jack at any other time except on the day of the coronation.
Really?
And you will be called Little Englander, you'll be called a far-rightist, believe me. Yeah. The one province in the United Kingdom is Northern Ireland, where they shamelessly fly the Union Jack from the houses and all that. They are, honestly...
No, but today was a day...
Paul, you're wearing your Donald Trump tie.
Am I?
Clearly,
no, I'm
pinned your colours to the mast.
Well, yes, but today was a day to be proud, to be British.
Right.
And what we did today on the world stage sets us apart from every other country in the world.
Yeah.
And we did it with style, with dignity, and with grace. And what the King did today was humbling, to be quite honest.
Well, indeed, and we'll go into great detail about the ways in which we were all humbled and inspired and entertained. It was just quite the day. I've got to say props to Nigel and the team who just rolled out such fantastic coverage. Stephen and Ellie this morning as well, and across the week. Everyone's just smashed it here at GB News. So do stay with us because it is the coronation party. And coming up, we'll be going back live to Buckingham Palace to get the thoughts of a top royal broadcaster and historian. And we'll be asking, did the coronation live up to the hype? And will King Charles, should I say, will Charles serve a full term as monarch? All of that's coming next.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate. Both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Saturday nights on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan tonight.
Saturday nights on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Mark Dolan tonight and our coronation party. Let's head to Buckingham Palace for further reflections on this amazing day in the company of political commentator and historian Rafe Hadel-Manku. Hi, Rafe. Now, we're just getting the line to Rafe, who looks very, very smart. He's wearing his medals. He's a decorated individual. Rafe, are you hearing me? Roger Rafe.
Roger Rafe, well, I'm hearing you loud and clear. I hope you can hear me too. It's chilly out here, but a glorious backdrop.
Well, that's wonderful. The expression Roger Rafe could be misconstrued, and it's a family show, so let's move on. Rafe, can we talk a little seriously for just a moment? Did the police go too far with the royal protesters?
Well, look, I'm all in favour of peaceful and protest that's not disruptive. There are mixed messages as to why precisely Graham Smith, the head of Republic, and his cohort of conspirators were actually arrested. They think it was an innocent misunderstanding about items they had that could be misconstrued as being items you could tie yourself to lampposts, much like Just Stop Oil did. I would have liked the protesters to actually have come out, because Republic is rather a motley crew. I've seen them in action for over 20 years, and there's nothing more dull and drab than a Republic protest. They're such grey dour souls, surrounded by hundreds of thousands of happy, patriotic people celebrating the monarchy. I think it's a wonderful contrast. If republicanism was a serious force in this country, they'd be out in thousands rather than just tens or hundreds. Republicanism has been the biggest political failure of modern times, so I say the more exposure they get, the better.
Now, Rafe, did the coronation live up to the hype? I just came into GB News earlier today, and I bumped into one of our commentators who said he thought it was a damp squib. Is that unfair?
An absolutely damp squib. You know, I was one of those who had criticised some of the decisions regarding traditions that would be abandoned and attempts to modernise, but I'm happy to say that I was proved wrong. It was a triumph. You know, I used to know many years ago the late Maharaja of Drangadra, a wonderful old man who used to rule his Indian princely state, and we discussed this coronation many years ago, and he said any attempt to modernise the coronation would be an act of wanton destruction of a World Heritage Site akin to demolishing the Taj Mahal or Stonehenge. But I think he, were he still alive, would agree with me that this was a triumph, because it was able to retain all of the core elements of our ancient coronation service, the constitutional, the sacred and the ceremonial, whilst at the same time simply reflecting the reality of modern Britain. If I can put it this way, it was a 21st century medieval coronation. And I thought it was, in a certain way, it was very different to 1953 in one real way. 1953, if you watch that coronation on DVD or on the internet, it looks like a Hollywood epic, because the technology was so primitive that cameras were very far behind and removed, they couldn't zoom in. So everything looked like it was one of those old-fashioned CinemaScope or Panavision films. This was far more intimate because cameras could zoom in and were in high definition. And we got to see the king and all of these rituals at a level and a proximity which no one had ever seen before. And the king himself looked very, very vulnerable, I thought, more vulnerable in a sense than young Queen Elizabeth. I thought it was a tour de force.
Well, I agree, and I thought it was a very human affair, and I agree that Charles looked... he did look vulnerable, and that's not a bad thing. And you could see that Camilla was a little unsure when the crown was placed on her head and she was adjusting her hair. I think that's a wonderful thing, that they showed their human side, a little bit of vulnerability. Now, Paul Burrell, who's our exclusive guest here on the Mark Dolan Tonight Coronation Special this evening, has said that this might be a relatively truncated and short monarchy, that this is a bridge to William and Kate acceding to the throne. Do you think that Charles will serve the full term?
It's a very interesting question that I've been reflecting on for a number of years. And my own personal view is, I think it's very unlikely. In fact, I would completely rule out the chance of His Majesty abdicating. But I think Prince William will set the precedent for abdication. And I'll tell you why. So the king was born in 1948. He is the last imperial monarch. He was born into a world of empire, and his notion of tradition and kingship, and indeed of spirituality, is very different, I would say, to that of the Prince of Wales. And abdication is actually now the norm across Europe. In fact, we've even had Pope Benedict XVI. We've had a pope abdicate. We've had Middle Eastern monarchs and potentates abdicate as well. It's not in the king's nature. Much like his mother, he believes that the sacrament of the coronation is a job for life. It's a calling and a vocation from which one doesn't abdicate. He's much more of a traditionalist. As with his mother, he went to Scotland for his holidays. Prince William isn't like that, and I think Prince William understands that the future of the monarchy depends on having a series of younger monarchs coming to the throne. And because of longevity, because of medicine and our health improving, we're going to have a series of very old monarchs coming to the throne. The king will be the king for at least 20, if not 25 years. The Prince of Wales and the Princess of Wales will be quite old themselves when they come to the throne by that process. So I think if Prince William's thinking may well be, I'll abdicate at the age of 70 and give Prince George a chance at the throne at a younger age, because the great moments of recent royal history have been the young Victoria, aged 18, the young Elizabeth at the age of 26, creating this new Elizabethan era. That's been inspirational, and that's renewed the monarchy and given it that jolt of fresh, new, young blood that I think it may need in the future.
Well, that makes sense based upon Charles's excellent genetics. It could be that he serves another couple of decades. Let's hope so. Long live the king. And if that were the case, then William would be about 60 when he is crowned king. And that's already a little bit of a weight that he's got on his hands. Now, let's talk about that relationship between the king and the Prince of Wales. Is there a danger that it could be like Prime Minister and Chancellor? Is there the risk that there will be a rivalry between the king and his son?
Absolutely not. I don't see that happening. I'll just to go back briefly to the previous point. The reason we had a young Queen Elizabeth was because her father had lung cancer. Now, I've often postulated, imagine if King George VI had lived as long as his wife, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, who died 50 years later in 2002. Our own Queen would have come to the throne very late in her life. And, attitudes there may have changed in terms of that coronation of the Queen. But anyway, going back to your question, no, I think Prince William and the King have a very, very close relationship. The King has waited all of his life for this moment. I mean, Prince William and the Princess of Wales are entirely realise that their role is to be the support, the strength and stay of the King. And everything that we've seen so far has shown that they really do understand that and that they intend to act as the support act. But very much so, the idea of the king is to put them front and centre too, to show the continuity of the monarchy. When you looked at the coronation today, you saw the king in his chair, but next to him was Prince William, who was himself separated from the rest of the royal family, including his wife and children. The coronation is not just about showing us the stability of 1,000 years of monarchy, it's also showing us visually the continuity of the monarchy over the next 2 generations.
Rafe, I'm delighted to say that you're staying at the Palace to bring us the latest, any breaking news, any developments in an hour's time. So say hello to that lovely crew and we'll catch you in an hour's time. Lots more to come in the company of Mike Parry, Kinsey Schofield and Paul Burrell. Next up, I'll be asking, should Harry have been on the balcony? And were you moved by William kissing his father? All of that next. You're watching Mark Dolan's Coronation Party on GB News.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories. Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Mark Dolan Tonight Coronation Party. In my big opinion, I talked about the fact that my parents came to the UK from Ireland in the 1960s. They made a life here. I'm so grateful to this country. I love the United Kingdom. Well, I'm not the only one. This from John. Hi, Mark. I beat you to it. My mum came in the 1950s. And one thing my mum always said was how Britain looked after her far better than she would have been looked after in Ireland. I feel so British, says John. You could cut me open and I would be red, white and blue inside like a tube of Aquafresh toothpaste. Beautifully put. Poetry. How about this? Let's have a look at a couple of other emails. Oh, yes. Hi, Mark, says Camille. Not Camilla, but Camille. I knew all or most of my customers were going to be glued to their TV, so I closed my shop. With my family, we enjoyed an awesome Coronation Day, so emotional, such pageantry. Only the British can put on such an event. Awesome. Long love our King and long live our King and Queen, says Camille. Thank you for that, Camille. I'll get to more of your emails shortly. With me for our coronation party, No better three. Oh, we got some pictures first of all. Let's have a look at your coronation photos. And we've got Drew's dog, Frank, and Lenny. Two dogs there. Drew's dogs, Frank and Lenny. Gorgeous creatures and plenty of flags on that table. What a lovely place. We've also got Celia, who's got her Union Jack hat on, flag in the window, and most importantly, watching GB News. Well done, Celia. What a star. This is Lisa, her son and mother, out and about, enjoying the coronation festivities. Wow. Gorgeous trio. Talked about the royals' genetics. Look at those three. Absolute babes. Keep those coronation pictures coming. Mark at gbnews.uk. Now, with me for the coronation party, I'm delighted to have the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Normally down the line from Hollywood, California, but you can touch her. She's real. She's three-dimensional. And get that paper down. We want to see the rose. Look at that. Look at that dress. Absolutely splendid. I'm delighted to have Paul Burrell as well, Diana's former butler, of course, star of I'm a Celebrity, done lots of other things as well, writer, broadcaster, a philanthropist, you name it. And last but not least, Fleet Street legend, massive radio star, co-founder of TalkSport, and a man very worried about Everton at the moment, Mike Porky Parry. Mike, let's get straight to this.
Yeah.
Harry made a blink-and-you'll-miss-it appearance at the coronation. I think it's right that he was there. But do you think he should have stuck around for beer and sandwiches afterwards? And should he have been on that balcony?
Oh. Well, I feel a bit queasy about him being here in the first place because the royal family are so forgiving, aren't they? I mean, you know, he's so laid into, you know, established members of the royal family. Camilla in particular. Yeah. Camilla was made queen today, and this is a woman that Harry really slagged off in his book, you know, and accused her of leaking stories to the press, which we know is completely untrue, and of, you know, trying to leave victims and bodies all over the place, and Harry was the victim. So I felt a bit queasy about him being there. So you have to give it to the king that the king could overlook the, you know, the really nasty sort of behaviour that Harry's been into for the last 18 months, 2 years. Definitely didn't want him on the balcony. And as far as I'm concerned, in and out as quickly as you can was about as much as I could tolerate of him.
Interesting.
Okay. Oh, you're going to ask me now.
Where do we start?
Where should I start? Well, I will start by saying I'm a divorced man with 2 boys, and the king is a divorced man with 2 boys. He wanted his boys to be there, both of them. He loves them both. I wanted my boys to be with me when I recently married, and they were there. So it completed the King's Day. I did not want Harry and Meghan to come to the coronation to be a sideshow, to take away the light from the day, which was the King's Day. I knew he was going to come in and go as quickly as possible. I knew that was his style. He wanted to keep the door open because he has to be relevant in the United States of America. He is royal, he's the king's son, and let's face it, he'll have a story to tell when he gets home.
However, is it not a shocker that he's not on that balcony and therefore not part of history?
He's not a working member of the royal family.
He chose that path. He's the king's son.
He chose that path. He chose to
But do you not think blood is thicker than water? That come what may, my father is the king, I'm on that balcony.
There are rules. He abandoned the country, he abandoned his people, he abandoned his duty. Diana wanted him to be William's wingman, to be with him on his path to being monarch, and to be there for him when he got there.
And do we think, and this is to Paul and Kinsey, one of these days he might wake up in California and think, what have I done? Why am I here? So the occasional trip back to the United Kingdom might just be a safety passport to an eventual return.
He might have been reminded of that today as he walked so lonely down the aisle of Westminster Abbey by himself.
On his own. Grimacing at times.
Vulnerable looking, not part of the royal party. Surely, he thought to himself, have I abandoned all of this? My heritage? My lifestyle? What was due to me? Why am I not sitting with my brother? And looking outside at all the armed forces, which he's so proud of and proud to be associated with, did he not think for 1 minute, oh, I wish I still had my uniform. I wish I was still part of this. And one day he might just wake up from this spell which has been cast on him.
How has that spell been cast on him?
Well, I think he's been mesmerised.
Do you care to name names?
He's been mesmerised by Meghan. And he's been sort of sucked into a celebrity world without even knowing it. He met a 36-year-old woman in London who whispered in his ear, "I want to change the world." He didn't hear Meghan's voice. He heard his mother's voice.
Ooh. There's the soundbite right there.
He's under Meghan's spell. When is that spell broken? Will it be broken, Kinsey?
Well, that's a pretty tough question, but I did want to say, in regards to the balcony, Paul and I were just looking at the internet, and Dior sent a tweet saying that they actually provided the custom suit that Harry wore to the coronation. So Harry was literally, he just showed up to merch. You know, I think that there have been rumors over the last few months that Harry was going to become a spokesperson for Dior.
You're telling me that his tailors, the tailors of his suit, advertised the fact that he was wearing a Dior suit today.
Made just for him, just for the coronation.
Not Tumble and Asser, not New and Lingwood, not Hawes and Curtis, not German Street
Savile Row, yeah.
Not Marks and Spencer's.
Certainly not.
John Lewis.
Yeah.
I'm currently wearing the Kin range. I think you'll agree it doesn't fit me.
But so it's, you know, I'm glad he wasn't on the balcony because it seems like he just popped in and showed up because he needed a hashtag sponsored moment. He needed to justify a check he has potentially already cashed from Dior.
Yeah. And what about this idea that one day, and of course it comes with authority in terms of Paul. Paul knows Harry well. That Harry wakes up one day and thinks, "What have I done?" That all of this, that the huge price he's paid becomes apparent.
You have a lot of sleepless nights in Los Angeles, California, because you are only as relevant as your last headline, your last photo, paparazzi picture taken, your last project. So he's not going to be comfortable. He's never going to be comfortable in Hollywood because you're always having to look forward. If it's not Dior today, what is it tomorrow? Is it the Duke of Sussex cologne? It is
shocking that he wasn't wearing English tailoring today.
Are you okay? Are you going to be okay?
Well, it is. Don't you think that's an insult to the heritage of this country?
I don't think he cares because he's
American now.
Yeah.
But his family are American. His children are Americans. Think about that. But today I was so saddened to see that lonely figure come down the aisle.
But even though you were
Diana's boy.
But Paul, even though you were saddened, a couple of people have said to me, Harry was on his own, and yes, he did look isolated, but there was a bit of the old Harry in him when he walked into the Abbey. He did have a twinkle in his eye.
Light on his feet.
He was quite affectionate to people around him. He was patting them on the shoulder, and I'm not trying to get personal here, but on his own, is Harry a different person to when he's part of the couple that's him and Meghan?
I couldn't see very much of him anyway because the Princess Royal's plume
nice little
blocked
feather
him out of most of the camera view.
The feather has become the candle.
Well, there you go. Look, what a fascinating debate. It will continue. Very shortly, we'll be talking about whether you were moved when William kissed his father, embraced him. Do you kiss members of your family? But next up, our coronation party is really going to get going because we have drinks expert and historian Andrew Morgan. So make sure you've got a tipple as well, and I'll see you in 2.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners on TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing. We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Hello, I'm Calvin Robinson. Do not miss my Common Sense Crusade Saturdays at 7 p.m. Join me for some in-depth discussions on faith. Is that not the start of the slippery slope? It's very much so. And the big moral questions of the day. I'm baffled.
You've got some nerve.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
During lockdown. Brilliant stuff. Welcome back to Mark Dolan's coronation party. As we approach 10 o'clock, some of you may well be settling down with a drink. I hope so. And certainly members of the royal family will be in drink, as they say, as we speak. Now, the Prince and Princess of Wales kicked off the festivities with a visit to the Dog and Duck in Soho, and they would not be the first royals who enjoyed a tipple. Drinks expert and historian Andrew Morgan is here to tell me more about the relationship between alcohol and the coronation. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Great Excellent. To have you here. First of all, where were you for the coronation? Did you watch it at home?
I was with my son, and we did indeed sit down. He got to appreciate for the first time what it's all about, I think, which, you know, having something new, something... I think it's very hard to engage with the longevity of reign that Elizabeth had. So this feels like it's something that, really, we really enjoyed it.
And I understand that through history, we've celebrated these coronations with a tipple.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got memories of being this high, going around grandparents' houses and having bottles of beer sitting there from various royal events. And I think there's something about, you know, recognising these special days with a special bottle. And I think, you know, the association with the royals and pulling a pint and the Queen Mum, who was, you know, she did love her booze. There was a great story. She was 97, admitted to hospital, and asked for 12 bottles of champagne just to ease her journey while she was in there.
Brilliant. A natural anaesthetic.
Absolutely.
And she liked gin and tonic. Is that right?
It was Dubonnet and gin. Yeah, with a splash of lemon.
And gin. What is Dubonnet?
It's a liqueur, I believe. So it's kind of
it's quite sweet.
Yeah, quite sweet. So really, it's almost like a sweetener to the gin. Little squeeze.
It's alcoholic though.
Oh, it's very alcoholic. Yeah, indeed.
So of course I don't know why I'm asking. I mean, we can ask Paul Burrell. We'll know about.
But they drank it in half and half quantities.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Which is like rocket fuel.
Yeah. And shared her love of it with her daughter. So Elizabeth Queen Elizabeth was also very partial to Dubonnet and gin.
Someone once said, I never saw Queen Elizabeth drunk, but then I never saw her sober either.
Fair enough.
Now, is that just a gag, or was she more of a drinker than we
she
might
was
realise?
a bigger drinker. The Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, was a bigger drinker than our Queen.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
they definitely had a routine that there were certain drinks at certain times of the day.
Right.
And that was very strict.
Wow.
So you would not have your Dubonnet and gin before 5 o'clock.
And the Dubonnet and gin was not diluted with anything?
No. Lunchtime drink. And in the evenings, then they switched to gin and tonics, and then martinis. Really, I mean, the Queen Mother told me how to make a martini. She said, Paul, you just show the vermouth to the jug.
Oh,
that's all. It's neat gin.
Another lovely stat was that Veuve Clicquot's biggest individual customer was the Queen Mother.
Oh, my goodness.
But did you know she took the bubbles out of it at the table? when they poured her glass of Veuve Clicquot, she had a little swizzle stick that she put into the glass and swizzled all the bubbles out of it.
That's amazing.
I wonder
An icon.
Easier to get down more quickly, perhaps.
Probably.
What about Charles? Do we know whether Charles is much of a drinker?
He likes sweet wines. He likes a German Moselle or a Riesling, something like that.
Blue Nun? Mike
Probably.
Harry's
Yeah,
favourite.
yeah.
Black
I'm a
Tower.
big expert in blue.
Is that right?
Blue.
Yeah.
Black Tower.
Why not? Why not?
Or
So, well, look, I mean, Mike's
Sauterne.
Mike's
Yes,
tongue
absolutely.
is hanging out. This is unfair torture on one of the princes of Fleet Street. So, what
sort of event? Wines, gin, and beer. So we've got I think that again, there's been a lot of products released for the coronation, and it's really lovely to have to have something that's accessible. Something that, again, we've got the supermarkets in here, so we've got an English wine from Sainsbury's, which I think one of the big changes that we've had in recent years is this explosion of English wine. It's an incredible thing, and
it's a success story, isn't it?
Absolutely, and regardless of your thoughts on the royal family, the fact that this is a celebration of all things British, all things English, and the hops and malt that are used in the beer are all English. It's a gin producer from Surrey, and we've got a fantastic English wine.
And I understand that English sparkling wine has received accolades from the French.
Oh.
Indeed, in blind tastings, it has outperformed the in Champagne in blind tastings.
Oh, my goodness.
But the
Isn't it the same chalk stream?
That's absolutely right. So the chalk from Champagne goes under the Channel, back out to the southeast of England, and it's the same soil type. So we've even got the French champagne houses buying English plots now and growing wines over here, which is really a massive change.
It proves again, doesn't it, about climate change being cyclical over thousands of years. Because I'm told this wine you're about to open now is the sort of wine the Romans used to make, alongside Hadrian's Wall in Northumberland, right?
And we had a mini ice age a couple of thousand years ago, and it's been warming up since then. And Henry VIII allegedly had a £6 million booze bill. 4 million on meat, and he was a big eater, right?
And that's when £6 million was a lot of money.
Well, 6 million in today's money.
Oh, I see.
If you kind of, it would have been a lot then, right?
Yeah.
And apparently, coronation events or big events, they would genuinely have fountains flowing with wine. So yes, wine is
absolutely.
We think it's a kind of a modern thing for England.
Yeah, but it's been around for a long time.
Now, Andrew, would you like me to pop my cork?
Mark,
This is a
it would be a
family
pleasure.
Here we go.
Not for the...
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
I think I did that quite well. I'm the son of a publican.
Well, you know that's the wrong way.
Now, Kinsey, would you like to have a drop of this?
Absolutely.
This is an English sparkling wine. We can't call it champagne because of trade descriptions.
It's beautifully
But it effectively is a champagne. Is it more like a Prosecco or a champagne?
So you've got the same grape varieties that go into champagne. Not necessarily the same, exactly the same type, but in terms of the style of wine, is very champagne-like, shall we say.
I can't believe that I'm serving the royal butler.
No, I should be doing this job.
Hilarious.
No, you've earned your stripes.
This is the
My
best
turn now.
episode ever of Mark Dolan tonight.
Yeah, I think it is.
But tell him he should open a bottle of champagne or fizz with a sigh.
Oh, no, come on.
Oh, is that right?
That
and
is-
not sandwiched
so much.
between my legs. I do think we could top that up slightly, I've got to say.
Oh, you're very kind.
Because then we'll get a more honest conversation in the next hour.
But it's
Come on,
it's so
Michael, don't let
celebratory.
me down.
I think the lovely thing about sparkling wine is it's so celebratory. And,
It is.
And on a day like today, this is the sort of time where you can feel comfortable.
May I?
Yes,
Even
absolutely.
starting early. Christmas is one day, but I think, again, today is a day for...
So would it be sacrilege to mix it with fresh orange juice and have a mimosa?
That is very Los Angeles of you.
I kind of think so. I think it's whatever you like, really.
Yes.
I think that to say anyone's wrong for doing anything like that, I think, to be honest...
Listen,
if
I'll
it's good-
never, ever get this chance again. I'm sitting
Cheers.
next to the royal butler, so may I propose the toast, God save the King!
God save the King. Absolutely. And so now, look, can I ask for your appraisal of the English sparkling wine? Paul, you've drunk a bit of bubbly in your time.
It's very good.
Yeah?
It is very good.
Michael?
I recommend it.
I'm not a huge champagne fan.
Okay.
Because of the bubbles.
It's sweeter than
I
a
would
normal
go down
champagne.
the Queen Mother's route and try and get the bubbles out, But this tastes a bit more like Prosecco to me, rather than champagne, which I find easier to digest because it's not as rich a flavour, you see what I mean?
And champagne is a little drier.
What about
this is
for
absolutely
you,
lovely.
Kinsey? Would that go down well in California?
Absolutely. It's delicious. I'm a huge fan.
Superb. I think English wine has still got such a journey ahead of it. There's so many people who don't even know, so many countries that don't know that England produces wine. And it is, the explosion's incredible. Living out in Kent, I can't quite believe that my son's growing up in in a county that's now going to be synonymous with winemaking, which is just incredible. You would never have thought that 10, 15 years ago.
We should support.
Well, let's plug a couple of the other products. Now, I will confirm that Sainsbury's, Morrison's, Aldi, Lidl, they all do excellent ranges of beers, wines, you name it. But it just so happens there's a second M&S product here, and it's Coronation Ale. Have you tried this one yet?
I have. I did. I have sampled before. Elgood's, the brewery they've been working with. And again, the great thing here is we're really celebrating English hops. We're celebrating English barley, English malt. You know, this is a very much a British product.
There you go.
Is it hoppy?
It's got a nice balanced hoppiness to it. It's a little boozy. It's about, I think it's 5%. I think so. It's kind of it's not holding back, but just
like an IPA.
Well, look, we don't have
more of a traditional sort of English golden ale.
We don't have an opener, but I've got a trick that I learned at university.
No.
I'm joking. Do not try that at home. I would never do that. In fact, a friend of mine did that. She's hurt her teeth. We've also got Silent Pool Coronation Expression Gin. My thanks to the brilliant Andrew, who is part of Ideal World Shopping Channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News. The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Saturday nights on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan tonight.
Saturday nights on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The new king in style with a special coronation party. Coming up in my take at 10, I'll be taking a look at the lighter side of this momentous day. Also, we'll be asking if this brilliantly staged event has proved the Britain haters wrong. And we'll find out what it's like to be behind the scenes at one of these incredible state events. We'll be talking to Paul Burrell about that. So a cracking hour to come in the company in the studio of the Queen of US Showbiz and Royal Reporting, Kinsey Schofield, Fleet Street legend Mike Porky Parry, and Diana's former butler, star of I'm a Celebrity, Paul Burrell. All of that to come, plus my take at 10, which is full of coronation lols. But first, the headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Mark, thank you. A very good evening to you. A moment of history for Commonwealth and country as King Charles III is crowned the nation's monarch. The spiritual and deeply personal event for the King was watched by millions from around the world. The Archbishop of Canterbury placed St Edward's crown on Charles's head, making him the 40th sovereign to be crowned at Westminster Abbey.
God save the King!
God save the King! Queen Camilla became the first Queen Consort to be crowned since the late Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, in 1937.
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you, and faith and truth I will bear unto you, as your liege man of life and limb. So help me God.
There was a personal moment between king and heir as the Prince of Wales, William, pledged his loyalty to his father and gave him a kiss on the cheek. The armed forces staged the largest ceremonial military operation since the late Queen's coronation in 1953. 4,000 servicemen and women took part in a parade that stretched a mile long, including the Household Cavalry, the Sovereign's Bodyguard and Royal Watermen. The military parade also featured troops from nations across the Commonwealth and the British Overseas Territories. In typical British weather, there was heavy rain, but that failed to dampen the enthusiasm of the crowds who'd gathered, hoping to catch a glimpse of the King and Queen. All procession viewing areas along the route were filled to capacity, with more than 10,000 enjoying the pomp and ceremony. Fans cheered Charles and Camilla as they travelled down the Mall back to Buckingham Palace in the Gold State coach. The carriage is over 260 years old and has been used at every coronation since 1831. We spoke to some of those fans who turned up.
Amazing, just absolutely amazing. Yeah, just congratulations to the King and Queen Camilla. Unbelievable.
Very wet, but tiring, but what a spectacle. Nobody else can do it better than us, can they?
We weren't expecting to see them on the balcony. We didn't think that we would get that close because we were quite far back. So, yeah, it's just a good day to be British.
We loved it. It was wonderful. If it wasn't so wet.
God save the King, God save the King, God save the King.
But not everyone was there in support. The Metropolitan Police arrested 52 people ahead of the coronation. The leader of anti-monarchy group Republic was among them. They had promised to stage the biggest protest against a British monarch in modern history. Activists were demanding an elected head of state, saying the royal family has no place in modern democracy. A number of Just Stop Oil protesters were also arrested. But to round off the celebrations of the day, King Charles and Queen Camilla appeared together on the balcony of Buckingham Palace. They waved to the thousands who gathered to pay their respects and watch history being made. They were joined on the balcony by the Prince and Princess of Wales and their 3 children. Princess Anne and Prince Edward also came out to greet supporters. Prince Harry and Andrew, the Duke of York, weren't there. Due to the weather, a scaled-back flypast of Royal Air Force jets, including the famous Red Arrows, flew over the crowds that filled the Mall and over the nation's new king. This is GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens. Now it's back to Mark.
Welcome back to Mark Dolan tonight and our coronation party. With me in the studio, celebrating our brand new king, former butler to Princess Diana, and I'm a celebrity star, Paul Burrell, the Queen of US Royal Reporting, Kinsey Schofield, and legendary journalist and radio star Mike Porky Parry. Lots to get through, plenty of coronation chat, and tomorrow's papers at exactly 10:30 sharp. It's another hour of celebration and fun, and a couple of drinks as well. I hope you're drinking with us. Let's start with this. What a coronation day it was. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of the day. Now, when it's your coronation, you've got to make sure you've got all of the right kit, right? Have a think about it. You need a royal pendant. Of course you do. Silk robes. And who could forget the all-important oven glove? Can't be too careful. What was he wearing? He'd probably forgotten about a roast chicken he'd left in the oven. Now, it's fair to say that pictures from today will be replayed countless times over the coming years, even decades. It's therefore important to conduct yourself with the appropriate decorum and certainly not give the impression you're in any way bored with proceedings. Isn't that right, Prince Louis? Oh dear. There he is, Prince Louis, speaking for a nation. Now, a joyful occasion overall, but sadly there was one spectre at the feast, sneaking around in the background, uninvited, unwanted, and a sad reminder of what the future holds for us all. Prince Harry? No, I'm afraid it was even worse. Take a look at this. Now, have a look at the top of your picture, in that doorway. Who's about to cross it? Oh my goodness, the Grim Reaper! Or was it Meghan Markle? Speaking of Meghan Markle, who was sadly absent from the coronation today, the British military gave their response to her not being there. Now, earlier in the week, the royal family were out and about meeting the public, although they were flanked as they were by some of the most high-trained security personnel in the country. It would surely be impossible for your average Brit to get too close to our first family, unless you needed to get to the chemist, that is. Take a look at this. This bloke's just been to Boots. He's picked up his Aignusol. He's got to deal with that itch, and there you go, one of the heavies has sorted him out. And just have a look at Kate here. She's got to have a peek and see whether he's been dealt with. Off he goes to the Tower, or maybe Superdrug. Now, I've got to say that some of the performances in the Abbey were magnificent, especially this beautiful and talented young woman, although it does serve as a reminder to all of us not to put your outfit in the tumble dryer beforehand. Hand wash, baby. Hand wash all the way and drip dry. Now, I've got to say, coverage of the coronation has been first class from all of the GB News presenters, producers and crew. And you've got no idea how hard these presenters work, especially Nigel, who fronted our coronation coverage this afternoon for 6 hours. He was amazing. But he was also in charge of health and safety as well. Take a look at this. I'm not sure he got the memo about fire safety, however, because if you see Nigel from the front, he's clearly enjoying a cheeky cigarette. I do hope that's British tobacco, Nigel. And the outfit of the day has to go to would-be Prime Minister and Leader of the House of Commons, Penny Mordaunt. Here she is, clearly channeling Britney Spears. It was a case of, oops, I did it again for Penny. Great spot there from the journalist Madeline Grant. Now, I've always admired Princess Anne, who does such a great thing for the country. She does so much for Britain. And she served the nation once again today by blocking the face of professional crybaby Prince Harry. Thank you, Anne. And last but not least, here are the Prince and Princess of Wales's cute children, Louis and Charlotte, who seem to have spotted something spooky and scary lurking outside. What could it be? Oh dear, absolutely terrifying. Those are your highlights from the day. Happy coronation, one and all. Brilliant stuff. I'm going to get to more of your coronation photos. They're coming in thick and fast. But let's say hi to my brilliant guests tonight. We have the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. We have Diana's former butler, star of I'm a Celebrity, broadcaster, philanthropist, you name it, writer as well, Paul Burrell. And Mike Porky Parry, Fleet Street legend, radio star, co-founder of TalkSport and much more. So, Paul, your highlight of the day, or some of the things that really stuck with you?
Oh, William's kiss on his father's cheek was the moment I shed a tear, because that was such a fond, touching family moment. And did you read the King's lips? He said, thank you to his son. Thank you. What was his word?
Was it my dear boy or something?
My dear boy. Thank you, my boy. And he looked visibly moved at that. And I thought, what a pity that the other son isn't stood there as well doing the same thing. And that would have made the King's day. Or maybe just to come towards the King with his little grandson. Something. But something was missing. The family was splintered.
And are you familiar with that tender side of Charles? Have you seen that before?
Yes, he used to, with the children at Highgrove, when they were very small, he'd play Big Bad Wolf, and he'd chase them around. His form of hide and seek, and he was the wolf coming to get them. Rawr. And he was great fun with the kids. I mean, people think he wasn't a good father, but he was a good father. Of course, they were Diana's boys at the end of the day, and she took kind of control of that situation. But he was there for his children when they were young. And for Harry to say that he didn't have love when he was a child is wrong.
Yes, because Philip, although a wonderful man, was quite an austere father to Charles by comparison.
Well, he ruled the roost. And behind closed doors, you know, it was always Prince Philip that was in charge. On the world stage, the Queen was in charge, but she would always say to me, Paul, ask Prince Philip. I don't know. I haven't got a clue. Ask him. And the family were scared of him in a way, because he was the guardian of the gate for the Queen, and he stopped them bothering her with all their problems. But of course, as soon as he died, everybody was in that door, including Andrew.
And what about that kiss? That was an iconic moment, wasn't it? That will be remembered.
I mean, I don't know if anybody has a better moment. I think it was just so beautiful. I think that we've all kind of branded the royal family as dysfunctional over the last few years, and it was a signal of strength. It was a signal of unity, and true love between father and son, right? True love, and I thought it was an important moment. Something I think I'd read about it traditionally and thought that sounds kind of strange, having to kiss somebody, or but to see it visually, it was stunning, and I thought it was really important.
Have there ever been tensions that you know of between Charles and William?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, I think that when William was growing up, I think that he maybe wasn't necessarily excited about all the pressure that was being put on him.
Because William had to grow up more quickly than his brother?
Absolutely.
Yes. And William once
he had something to grow up for, didn't he?
Yeah. He had a fit one day and he said, I don't want to be king. So Harry piped up, well, I'll do it instead of you then. Right. And so Diana said, well, that's a good thing. No, it won't happen, but we'll call Harry GKH from now on, Good King Harry. And have you thought about the fact that William and Kate and the children all fly on holiday to Sandringham or wherever in a helicopter with one engine? If that happens, a tragedy happens in the family, we will have King Harry and Queen Meghan.
Oh, that is a terrible...
What a moment. Well, Michael, what was the moment for you today?
Well, the biggest moment today was the coronation of King Charles III, but I was overwhelmed when the crown went on Camilla's head.
Wow.
Because as far as I'm concerned, that seals King Charles's reign as being as perfect as it can possibly be for the number of years he's on the throne, because I think Camilla has saved King Charles. Just before we came on air tonight, I asked Paul, being an expert, what would have happened if Diana was still alive? Could Charles have been made king as a single man? How would all that have worked out? Tragedies hit the whole scene, obviously. Diana, Princess of Wales, has died. But I think Camilla has brought such a steadying influence to King Charles. I think that he was a man who didn't know himself for so many years, for so many decades, unsure of his role in public life, his mother such a huge figure in the world, and would he ever inherit it? And with Camilla alongside him, when I saw the crown go onto her head, I felt safe that the monarchy will last forever.
Oh dear. All right. Well, now, she may be the person that saves him, and she may be a queen in the shadows. But for many people in the United Kingdom and around the world, there was a ghost at this ceremony, and somebody that cannot be
But she expunged the ghost, Paul. She expunged the ghost. She's got rid of that ghost. Yes, she did.
I don't think she did.
Yes, she did.
I think the power of Diana will be lasting for many more
I totally agree with you, but only now as a mythical figure.
He's rewarded.
And not reality. The reality is Camilla, Queen
He's rewarded the woman he loves with the ultimate title, the ultimate goal. It's Charles's doing. I don't think it's Camilla's doing. I think she'd be very happy just to be married to the man she loves.
And be consort.
Yes.
Yes.
But he wanted her to be...
Well, that shows his character, doesn't it? That shows his character and his strength. She is going to be my queen.
Yes.
Don't you think it's interesting, though, that we had all of these debates about how this coronation was going to differ from the last? And we're talking about plants, you know, robes, but none of us were like, you know, this is the first time a guy that was divorced and married his mistress got to, you know, got to actually see it all the way through.
What about Henry VIII?
How have we?
Yes.
How have we fallen so far that that's not, you know, that's not a big deal, that he chose to go off and marry the other woman, and we don't bat an eye. We're talking about robes or...
Yes,
well, this is
so the
today,
message of the day is love conquers.
Love conquers all. But it was today Diana's worst nightmare.
I don't think so. I think she
would have moved on.
Yeah.
I think she would be gracious on this day. She would have moved on, found love in her life, and found a role in the world.
If Andrew Parker Bowles got an invite, Princess Diana certainly should have been. If she,
well, that's absolutely right. We're going back to Buckingham Palace after this. You're watching Mark Dolan's coronation party, and don't forget the papers at 10:30 as well. So much to get through, let me tell you. We'll be talking about William and Harry. Can they patch up their relationship? And also, what is life like behind the scenes on an occasion like this? We'll be asking Paul Burrell. Don't go anywhere.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now? Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News. the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I have walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories. Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Mark Dolan Tonight coronation party. Lots of coronation pictures coming in. Thank you so much. We're getting hundreds. Samantha says, here is our son, Milo. He is 7 in his coronation outfit. What a superstar. Cherie has emailed in and says, here's some pictures of the coronation day, meeting our new king and queen. Oh, brilliant. You've gone down. We saw this earlier. Drew's dogs, Frank and Lenny. We love a hound on this show. The hound dog. We've also seen this one. We're doing the repeats, folks. That's a photo of Celia. Thank you, Celia, for that. Keep those pictures coming. Thick and fast, Mark at gbnews.uk. Let's head back to Buckingham Palace now for further reflections on the big day. And historian and political commentator Rafe Hadel-Manku. Now, Rafe, has the coronation proved the Britain haters wrong?
Ah, yes, the Britain haters. Well, look, the Britain haters say that nobody was going to come to the Golden Jubilee in 2002 or to the Diamond Jubilee in 2012. And what happened? The British public came out in their droves. Then the Britain haters said, oh, well, that was because that was Queen Elizabeth. No one's going to come to the coronation. And what happened? Well, the great British public once again proved them wrong and showed that, you know, these Twitterati folk don't represent the people of England. The coronation celebrates Britain at its very best. It's a glorious summation of our national character, of our beliefs and of our values, and importantly also of the nature of our constitution. It celebrates the fact that, you know, it's not just about the monarchy, it's about the fact that Britain is the world's oldest continuous democracy. And the reason we're the world's oldest unbroken democracy is because of the stability of our institutions. And that stability ultimately comes from the monarchy. So we have every reason to be proud about the monarchy and what it means for Britain, and also because it's a unique global phenomenon. There's nothing like it anywhere else in the world. Every culture, every nation has a ceremony, a ritual for installing their head of state, but nothing comes quite close to this. You know, the Chancellor of Germany, the Prime Minister of Italy are appointed by presidents. Nobody knows who the presidents of Germany and Italy are. I imagine that they're dull men in grey suits. You're not going to get hundreds of thousands of people descending here. You're not going to get the world's media focusing on their inauguration or the birth or wedding of their children and grandchildren. The monarchy does such a wonderful thing for Britain around the world.
Definitely. Who could name the President of Germany, the President of Ireland even? And I say that as an Irishman. It's a big difference. And that's the point, isn't it, Rafe? In terms of the monarchy's soft diplomatic power globally, yes, the Queen was a hard act to follow, but Charles is not without profile. He's one of the best-known men on the planet.
You're absolutely right. There's something actually called the magic of monarchy, which psychologists have actually identified. It doesn't apply just to monarchs, it would apply to a pope or the Dalai Lama and so forth. But there is this energy about those sorts of figures. Classic example, when the Queen went to the United Nations General Assembly to give a talk. There was this frail old lady giving a speech, And the world's seasoned diplomats who've seen every president known to man were clambering over each other to try to take pictures of this lady. And if you look also at the King Charles's gatherings, just look at the crowds around them. There's a broad beaming smile on people's faces, which you don't get when you see one of our prime ministers. You don't get when you see presidents. You look at America, only half the nation likes Biden, only the other half like Trump, one half liked Obama, one half like Bush. Very divisive. Monarchy rises above all of that. It epitomizes the very best of Britain. And I was just thinking, we don't actually have in this country any longer many common points of cultural reference. No one watches the Morecambe and Wise Christmas special type programmes. The audience viewing figures aren't there because of streaming and so forth, or Del Boy falling through the bar in the pub. It's only sporting events and royal events that provide those rare occasions for the whole nation to actually come together and witness and celebrate the same sort of thing. And so it actually helps to forge our national identity and key national moments in our life. We will all remember where we were for the coronation. And the other thing that it does is it helps to build social cohesion. Increasingly today, we don't know who our neighbours are. We don't talk to people around us in big cities and so forth. But through things like the coronation, you're going to see tomorrow at the big lunch, people having street parties with their next-door neighbours, actually for the first time chatting, probably exchanging WhatsApp numbers. That's, I think, the beauty of monarchy, which you don't get with a Republican style of system.
Rafe, you've been an absolute star today and over the last few days for the channel. Loved having you on the programme. Rafe Hadel-Mancu, historian and political commentator. Brilliant stuff. Well, we've got the papers next, and there's only one story in town. It is the coronation. You'll have noticed I haven't mentioned politics today or yesterday. It's a politics-free zone, especially tonight for our coronation party. But I'll be dealing with Rishi Sunak tomorrow night. We're back at 9 in My Big Opinion, My Take at 10, and a very political panel. So we'll go straight back to domestic politics tomorrow. But for tonight, let's have some fun and maybe even a little drink. I'll see you in 2.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Hello, I'm Calvin Robinson. Do not miss my Common Sense Crusade Saturdays at 7 p.m. Join me for some in-depth discussions on faith. Is that not the start of the slippery slope?
It's very much so.
And the big moral questions of the day. I'm baffled.
You've got some nerve.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Was the true defender of liberty.
Welcome back to Mark Dolan tonight, a coronation party, and we've got lots of more wonderful pictures coming in. Sheena has emailed this. It's Queen Poppy. Gorgeous. Perfect, one of my team has written. Good line. This is an email from Keith. Keith says, I'm very proud to be British today. As always, love your show. Well, thank you, Keith, and be careful on that ladder. That's a health and safety nightmare. By the way, nice legs. Look at those calf muscles. Bradley Wiggins, eat your heart out. Oh. And then look at these two. Michael has emailed in a picture. My granddaughters Willow and Ruby in their coronation dresses. They look stunning.
So sweet.
That's royalty. We're going to power through lots more. Producer Mark has been piling them up. We love your pictures from the coronation. However, we've now got to look at tomorrow's papers, and let's have a look at the Express for starters. And they lead with the following: happy and glorious, just 3 words, a historic souvenir edition of the paper. Brilliant photo of the King looking so happy, a winning smile, a glint in his eye, and of course that priceless crown on his head. The Telegraph next. And actually no headline. I guess a photo says 1,000 words.
Are those photos any good, Mark?
Well, I'm not convinced by the Telegraph's front page. What do you think, Michael?
Well, I looked at the Sunday Express first. I was on to Paul about it.
Yeah.
We both said at the same time, it looks almost like stick-on stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I know there is a question about the resolution. I don't know if that's our printout, because we've got a fairly basic printer here.
The physical presence of the crown on the head, isn't it?
I think it is. I think it doesn't look quite real.
I see. You feel like it's almost photoshopped. Is it because it's got a black background?
Could be. Was there actually a moment?
Do you mind if we go back to the Express? Is there any way of doing that, Jonathan? That will be great if we can just have a look. Mike Porky Parry, not happy about the Express front page. Sorry, we do get rather...
I'm not saying I'm unhappy, and I'm not criticising, any of my colleagues in the print business, but for some unknown reason, it doesn't...
Do you think?
It doesn't come up real. I don't know why.
And this one, do you think it looks like 2 cut-out figures about to be pressed out of a page?
Yeah, I mean, that's a bizarre photo, isn't it, Paul? It's just the King and Queen, but just in a busy corridor.
Yeah, it looks odd.
Yeah, it looks odd indeed, with no headline.
There's no regalness about it,
No,
is
let's
there?
hope they give that one a rethink. I think the Observer have done better. You've had a sneak preview.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
a very
good.
solemn photograph of the King. King Charles III, his crowning moments. Also, Labour winning back swathes of Brexit voters, data reveals. The Mail on Sunday now, historic souvenir edition. The look that says, darling, it was a triumph. Breathtaking pictures, the finest writing. What do we think of that front page, Kinsey?
I love that one. I do. I think that's a beautiful... It's the most authentic and warm of all that you've shown me so far.
Yeah, and what's good about it, Paul, is it does tell a story.
It does. It says we did it, doesn't it?
It does indeed. We did it. That's the headline, by the way. The Sun on Sunday next. Another solemn image of the King.
That's a good one, though.
It is good. I mean, don't you think he looks a little glum, though, Michael?
But emotional.
A bit emotional and almost like a bit sort of tired, under his eyes and all that, the stress of the occasion, all that kind of stuff. Nevertheless, it's a good picture. I just wonder, very quick comment, having been in Fleet Street for 25 years, when you've got so much TV coverage these days, do people want to read 40 pages of it tomorrow?
You do wonder.
Well, you do want to collect it as a collector's item.
Yeah, but what do you do then? You put it in a drawer somewhere and
That's
you look
exactly
at it for 10 years.
what I do.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is nobody's going to read every word of the 40-page specials tomorrow because they've seen it in reality in live TV for 12 hours a day.
Yes, the only reason we had the souvenir editions back in the day is because people watched it on a black and white telly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the Sun on Sunday, crowning glory. A glorious moment of history is captured in all its regal splendour as King Charles III is crowned along with Camilla by the Archbishop of Canterbury at Westminster Abbey. The Sunday Times going with a similar image of the King.
Yeah, I like that.
Coronation of King Charles III. Again, no headline.
Wearing the crown he'll only ever wear once.
That's interesting that you say that, of course. Except, does he not have to wear it when he invades countries or something like that?
Well, if we invade one, maybe.
Yeah. By the way, Kinsey, all this patriotism, and I know you admire King Charles.
I do.
Do you think maybe he should have a crack at taking America back?
In the current state it's in, I'd say give it a try.
I think that's another Tea Party in Boston.
There you go. Let's bring it home, folks. The United States of America. What could possibly go wrong? Next up, last but not least... Oh, no, sorry, I've just glossed over the Mirror. Forgive me, team. Sunday Mirror, King Charles III, May the 6th, 2023. Michael, why no headlines on any of these papers?
Well, sometimes when you get an image and it's so powerful, you make up the headline in your own head. You look at the image and then it's a bit like silent prayer. Do you see what I mean?
Okay, but what do you think when you look at that image? What is the one you make up in your head?
Mine is admiration for the king. Do you see what I mean?
Beautiful.
So sometimes you can say to yourself, if they put a caption on it and you don't agree with the caption, it ruins the image. Do you see what I mean?
Interesting.
So you just want the image and then you photographically put your own caption on it.
OK, and last but not least, the Daily Star Sunday with a bit of cheeky admiration for the king. King Charles III. Historic souvenir edition, again with a similar image.
It's interesting to see that because the garter chain usually has an enamel St George and the Dragon from it, but look at this one. This is total bling. Either it's been made specially for him in diamonds, or it could have been King George III's or a previous king.
Remarkable.
So I don't think anyone's picked up on that, but that is total.
So that's on his chain.
Absolutely. On his chain.
Yeah.
It's usually just an enamel of St George and the Dragon, and this is the garter chain, of course. He's wearing, but that huge suspended brooch. On the end of it.
Do we think it's Dior?
I don't think so.
Well,
let's
let's find out whether Prince Harry has been tweeting about that. Brilliant stuff. Well, look, reacting to tomorrow's papers, we have my wonderful guests tonight. The Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Former butler to Princess Diana, and I'm a celebrity star, Paul Burrell. And broadcasting and Fleet Street legend, Mike Porky Parry. And Mike, you've covered the royal beat many a time in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the great joys of working in New York for the Daily Express during the 80s was that about every 3 or 4 weeks you got a call to say, Diana's in the Caribbean. And we'd have to go and hire a yacht for about $20,000 and then follow her around, you know, the British Virgin Islands or something like that.
What a life.
Yeah, exactly. That's right,
Yeah, we had to.
Sorry, But, you know, I'd do it with Ken Lennox, you know, the great photographer. Arthur Edwards, of course, would be there. Jimmy, the Red Tomato, as Tom used to call him, the Mirror royal reporter. And it was scintillating. It was great fun. We hardly ever found her, right? But
unless she wanted you to.
Well, exactly. Exactly. But nevertheless, the chase was great fun. And I think Jimmy, for instance, on the Daily Mirror, what's his surname? James...
Whittaker.
Whittaker, thank you very much indeed. One Christmas, Jimmy invited us all round to his house. He had a lovely house in Berkshire or somewhere like that. And we all had dinner in the Princess Diana wing because he'd made so much money in expenses following Diana around the world, literally. He was able to build an extension onto his house.
God bless him, he's now passed.
Yes, of course he has, but he was a great guy.
He was.
Now Paul, tell me about how things are behind the scenes on an occasion like this.
It's a mega operation. I mean, in my day, doing the Silver Jubilee with the Queen, butlers in the silver pantry, butlers in the china and glass pantry, fender smiths to mend the fires, carpet layers, gilders, a fire brigade. It was an entire town.
And everyone knows their job.
Everybody knows their place, everybody knows where they have to be, from the linen room and the tablecloths to the silver and the crystal. Everything. And the wine cellars.
Are there drills and rehearsals?
Yes, they rehearse it and they set the tables way beyond time, probably the day before. All the tables have to be formed first before they're clothed and before the candelabras and the flowers and it's an absolute city underneath Buckingham Palace. Underground corridors of busy people.
And it must
200 staff.
200. It must all hinge on great leadership, good management.
It does. And everybody is doing it for the monarch. They're doing the best they can. We always had a saying at the palace, you know, it has to be good enough for the Queen. It has to be good enough
So
now
who'd
for
be
the
in
King.
charge of that, Paul?
The palace steward.
Right.
Oversees this, like Carson in...
I was about to say,
Yes.
related to Downton Abbey.
Downton
would you?
Abbey.
Yeah.
Carson oversees everybody, including the housekeeping staff and the butler staff and everyone else. He runs the ship.
Yeah.
So we had a palace steward. He told us what to do, where to be, what time to be there. And then, of course, you had to change uniforms 2 or 3 times a day and hop on the back of a carriage. And you saw those footmen on the carriages wearing their scarlet and gold with the riding caps. That would have been me back in the day.
Right.
And
Oh, really? You used to swap roles and become
Jump
a
on a
footman
carriage.
and all that kind of stuff?
My job was to look after the Queen, so whenever she was in a carriage, I was stood behind her. Royal Ascot.
With a gold coat on and a black hat and all that?
And those knee breeches and the pink silk stockings, which were always wrinkly, like Nora
Do things
Bassett.
ever go wrong? Does chaos ever ensue behind the scenes?
Well, yes, sometimes with state visits. I remember the Emperor of Japan coming to Windsor Castle for a state visit, and one of the staff had a few too many.
Okay.
And dropped a whole tray of glasses in front of the Emperor of Japan.
Oh, dear.
And they just quietly ignored it as if it never happened and just moved on.
Was that in front of the Queen?
Yes.
Oh, dear.
But the Queen never minded, you see, because she just sailed on as if nothing had happened.
Well, that was Theresa May's great story about the Queen, wasn't it? They were at Balmoral, I think, having a picnic, and
Who washed and who dried?
Who washed and dried? But also, Theresa May had a lump of cheese apparently on a plate. Was talking to the Queen, and her wrist went limp, and the cheese fell off her plate onto the floor.
And a corgi ate it.
Yeah, I think it did. I think dogs ran up. Theresa May didn't know whether to lean down and pick it up or
just kick it under the table.
And so somebody said, what eventually happened? He said, oh, the Queen just turned away.
And would that be a sackable offence, dropping a tray of glasses?
Oh, no. No, the Queen was very kind to all her staff. She looked after them. She looked after their families. She made sure they were comfortable. She would ask them personally, and she'd know them all by name.
Yeah.
Literally, all by name.
And is staff retention quite good? Does the Queen, or did the Queen hang on to her staff?
Yes. And some stayed for a lifetime.
Because it's not big money, is it? You don't get rich.
No,
in that job.
Me and my friend, he was Tall Paul and I'm Small Paul, and we looked after the Queen for 11 years. And Princess Margaret said to the Queen one day, well, why don't you change one of their names if they're both called Paul? And the Queen said, well, no, because I shout Paul and one of them arrives. She says, well, that confuses the hell out of me, so I'm going to call him Small Paul and the other one Tall Paul. He's 6'3".
Are there any rules around eye contact or things like that?
You're not supposed to stare at a monarch. You're not supposed to look at them in the eye. So my last duty every night was to go into her room and say good night, and she'd say, well, could you tell everyone I'm now retiring? So I went into her room one night, pitch black, and she sat at her desk and with one reading light over the desk, and I stood transfixed to the spot. And she said, why are you staring? And I thought, oh. I said, but Your Majesty, if you could see what I could see. She was wearing the imperial state crown. That crown she was wearing at her desk, getting ready for the opening of Parliament. As I looked down, I could see her pink, fluffy slippers.
That's so funny.
What a moment.
Sight.
What a moment. Many more of those royal memories to come from Paul Burrell and Mike Porky Parry, Kinsey Schofield as well. We'll have a look at US reaction. Should Joe Biden be there? Also, should Diana have made more of a presence at today's coronation? Should she have been reflected in some way? Also, will the press be kind to Charles? And was it bittersweet for our new king? So all of that to come, plus more front pages as well. See you in 2.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
So Dubes & Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News. The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Saturday nights on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan tonight.
Saturday nights on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show. It's Mark Dolan tonight and our coronation party. So many pictures have been sent in today into the show, so thank you so much for sharing them. Julie has emailed this. She says, Mark, is this your double? He's a lot more handsome than me. I love that suit. So great. Thank you, Julie. Sarah was watching our coverage live on GB News earlier with what I believe is a glass of bubbly. Well done, Sarah. Great channel, great champagne, and nice woodwork in your place, by the way. A nice place and a firework fireplace as well.
Yeah, nice
Phil,
radiator.
Isn't it a good radiator? There you go, nicely heated home. Phil says this picture was taken at my 92-year-old mother-in-law's coronation party earlier today near Wigan. What a lovely family.
Well, Wigan, a great town.
Thank you, Phil.
I hate it.
Barbara and Deneen in Leek watching it all on GB News.
Aww.
Gorgeous. What a pair of babes. Properly decorated house as well. Rob says, hi, Mark. Do you think wearing this T-shirt is over the top for clubbing in Brighton tonight?
No
Absolutely
way.
not. Rock out, Rob. You're going to pull, let me tell you. Rob's going out. He's on the shark. Thank you, Rob. Lovely East Sussex there. Well, let's power through some more discussions about today's coronation. And Kinsey Schofield is with us, normally down the line, but today in the flesh. And by the way, let me just, Matthew, if you'll forgive me, this is a copy of her brand new book. It's called R is for Revenge. A Princess Diana-inspired alphabet book for grown-ups. And basically, the book is kind of inspiring, isn't it? Like a self-help book almost, Kinsey.
Oh, well, I think you're giving me too much credit. But yeah, I think I just wanted to remember her for her sweet spirit and not, you know, The Crown was sad. The Crown kind of fixated on that sad part of her life.
But that's not real.
And that's not, and it's not a proper reflection of her.
No,
So I wanted to have fun. T is my favorite page. Can you look at T?
Yeah, let's call up T, because they're all excellent. It is alphabetical.
T is my favorite page.
T is for Travolta. There you go. There's an image of John Travolta. And let me read this out.
The White House dress.
The ultimate hunk. The cameras were flashing as Travolta's heart sunk. A dance with Diana. Everyone would stare. This would be a story Princess Diana would eagerly share.
But you know that she didn't really want
I
to
know.
dance with John Travolta.
She wanted the ballerina, I know.
She wanted to dance with Mikhail Baryshnikov.
And he was injured. Maybe I'm just living vicariously through the dance she got.
Well, I'll take Travolta.
Yeah.
Should Joe Biden have been there today?
I think that this was a missed opportunity. I think that it's a privilege to be invited. They slashed the guest list from 8,000 to 2,000.
But no president has ever attended a coronation.
But why not be the first one to do it?
That's a great point.
But I think the world has changed, Paul, since then.
Yes, it has. But I think that Americans feel, am I wrong, that this is an internal event and it's not anything to do with America because of the Boston Tea Party. Do you think?
Yeah, but it's a world event. It's a world event, and all the top people in the world wanted to be there, and also, you know, Biden's got an election coming up, OK, and there is a very strong pro-royalty feeling in America, isn't there, Kinsey?
There is enthusiasm around the royal family. I mean, it doesn't keep me up at night, but I would have taken the opportunity if I had it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't.
Well,
know.
it was a world event, which I'm sure Dr. Biden enjoyed.
Oh, absolutely.
And wouldn't it have strengthened the Western alliance as well, you know, in a very troubled world that we've got now? Wouldn't it have been another sign, Paul?
It would have been an antidote to the Irish problem when he went to Ireland and said, well, I might be Irish, but... Did he actually say that?
He said to a BBC reporter once, quite recently, oh, where you from? The BBC? OK, you don't need to talk to me, I'm Irish.
I'm Irish.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. Hi, Mark. Great day, and always look forward to your monologue, but Kinsey steals the show. So beautiful, and her smile lights up the room. Lots of love coming in for
Thank you
Kinsey.
so much.
I think we all totally endorse that, Kinsey.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no, I've got a bit of an angry email from Lisa, who says, why are you so rude to Mike? Stop calling him Porky.
Oh, no!
Well,
but we know that's your iconic nickname, don't we?
Listen, I have no problem about it whatsoever. What's the name of the lady, Lisa? Lisa, I've been called much worse things.
Well, I'm only using the moniker that, of course, was given to you by broadcasting legend, ex-Man United star Alan Brazil,
who weighs about 3 times what I do, by the way. You know,
and he invented Porky, called you Mike Porky Parry.
Porky Parry.
There you go. Well, look, I think it has served you well. I've got to say.
Indeed, I don't mind it at all, Lisa, but thank you for your concern for my well-being.
Paul, are you still in touch with any of your colleagues? Your former colleagues, or indeed family members?
Yes, I am. But if I told you about them, that would burn the bridge towards them.
You mean if you told us, you'd have to shoot us?
I would. But
He's too
Do you miss your time there?
I miss the people. Of course, I miss our dear late Queen.
Yeah.
I miss Princess Diana, of course. Yeah. Her colours are nailed to my heart and always will be for the rest of my life. I can't get away from that, folks. I'm sorry. It's just who I am, and I'm loyal and true to her memory. But I'm moving on.
I read some time ago, Paul, that you were a little boy when you first put your hands on the railings outside Buckingham Palace. And said to your mother or somebody, one of these days, I'm going to work in there, OK? Right. Now, have you ever reflected what you might have done with your life if you hadn't gone into royal service?
Yes, because when I was 18, I went to Hotel Catering College and I put out letters to Trust House 40, Cunard and people like that. What happened was, when I got the letter from Buckingham Palace, another letter arrived. I didn't know about that letter until my mother died, and my little brother told me that a letter from Cunard had arrived offering me a job on board the QE2.
Right.
I told John Prescott that story, and he said, you should have gone to sea. You could have been Deputy Prime Minister by now.
Wow.
Because he had his life on the Queen Mary as a steward.
John Prescott was Deputy
Prime Minister. Did I choose the right path?
I think you most certainly did. We wouldn't change a thing, would we?
You're a rock star.
Now, Kinsey, you're heading back to America soon.
Unfortunately.
You're going back there.
What a loss to our country.
Well, definitely. We'd like to keep you.
Stay here.
Will this have been a big event? I mean, you go back to America, will people still be talking about it?
I do believe so, because I have been doing a lot of American media over here, which is why I have bags under my eyes right now. But there is so much enthusiasm about this family. There's so much interest, and it's oftentimes it's the scandal, oftentimes it's the dysfunction, but it's the glamour. I mean, we really do love Catherine, the Princess of Wales. We love, she is just...
How can you not?
I know, and she is just so graceful, and the word professional is a terrible way to describe her, but...
Well, it is her job.
She does her job, her
given
duty.
Up her life
and
to
yes,
do this job.
And takes punches left and right, more so now than ever before.
Yeah. No voice.
Has no voice, and you know, I think America really admires her. So there is a lot of interest in the family. There's a lot of interest in the event, but they are asking critical questions about wokeism. Charles's wokeism, some of the things he said in the past, the scandals, they're not allowing it to just be a party. They're asking tough questions too.
If Kate's popularity is rising in America...
It is, yes.
Does it mean at the same time Meghan's popularity is declining? Because Kate and Meghan do not like each other. I mean, that's widely known.
Statistically, polling-wise, says absolutely yes, that Meghan has taken a dive. I think that's why she signed with William Morris Endeavour, because she realizes she cannot outsmart the royal family, and she's got to rally a powerful team behind her to take them on.
Is she going to go back into acting, or is she going to go towards politics?
I think she would like to do lifestyle branding and have her say
Totally
in politics.
agree. She wants to be the next Oprah Winfrey.
She wants to have her cake and eat it. Well, we had our cake and ate it tonight. Thank you to Mike, to Paul, to Kinsey. What a treat. It's been a great 2 days. We're back tomorrow. Headliners is next.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
New to GB News.